At 19, hunted secret 20 years. Shadows now carved, swallowed Bravo evidence into the team flesh of their secrets, yet her screams carved a path Umbrella would spend 2 decades trying to bury. How does a medic's scalpel become a weapon against the corporation she bled for? Rebecca's survival wasn't an escape, it was a declaration of war. Umbrella's scientists became hunters. Each failed kill attempt a footnote in their obsession. 20 years, dozens of contracts. Name each failed kill whispered in attempt. Her scalpel, save the lives F. Spencer dozens contrafts. Shadows now carved, swallowed Bravo evidence into the team flesh of their secrets. Every stitch she applied in Re-Zero preserved proof of their atrocities. A living ledger, they feared her not for violence but for clarity. A medic who saw their sins in blood and data. How does a girl who fled a mansion become the shadow that haunts an empire? Rebecca Chambers was 19 when S.T.A.R.S. officers found her in a Raccoon City infirmary. A surgical prodigy with a scalpel's precision, she joined Bravo team as Billy Cohen's field medic. Their bond was professional until the Spencer Mansion. July 1998, the air reeked of iron and decay. Rebecca stitched wounds as the walls bled. She cataloged anomalies, corpses moving, blood pooling in unnatural patterns. Umbrella's data logs, buried in the lab's wreckage, told the truth. The T-virus wasn't a weapon, it was a prototype, a foundation. By then the infection had spread beyond the mansion. Reports from Africa, South America, Southeast Asia all linked to the same corporate signature. Umbrella's reach was a spiderweb. The Spencer incident was its first strand. Rebecca's escape was no victory. She carried evidence in her notes, in the film from her camera, in the scars beneath her gloves. Umbrella's scientists didn't destroy her that night, they marked her. Her name vanished from S.T.A.R.S. records, her superiors turned silent, but the corporation's hunters never sleep. For 20 years, Rebecca Chambers has moved in shadows, a ghost who knows the price of every vial, every experiment, every life traded on Umble. The bodies stopped piling up in Raccoon City. Rebecca's survival was a loose thread in Umbrella's tapestry. They tugged, the thread frayed. She carried the T-virus secrets in her blood, her memory, her breath. Umbrella's ledger had a new entry, asterisk asset, Chambers, status, liability, resolution, erase, asterisk they began with poisons, then fires. Then mercenaries who mistook kindness for weakness. She outran them through Raccoon's ashes, through Europe's snow, through the humid rot of Africa's jungles. Each escape carved Umbrella's rage deeper. What did they fear? A medic's hands, a witness tongue? No, they feared the truth. The T-virus was never a failure. It was an engine, a god. A weapon refined in the marrow of the dead. Rebecca had seen the blueprints. She had held a vial that could turn empires to dust. Umbrella's cleanup teams grew ruthless. They infiltrated S.T.A.R.S. under new names. They staged accidents in research labs. They left infected animals in her path. She learned to sleep with a knife, to trust no shadow. The war became silent, no guns, no monsters, just the whisper of a blade at dawn, the hesitation in a stranger's gaze. 20 years, dozens of hunters. Rebecca's name became a myth in Umbrella's vaults, asterisk the girl who should be dead. Asterisk but survival is a kind of weapon too. She kept moving, they kept sending killers. The world narrowed to a line of footprints, always one step ahead. Dread is not the fear of death, it is the knowledge that death has already hired 1,000 hands. And every hand that failed only made the next one hungrier. The door slammed, the cold air of Raccoon Forest bit through her blood-stained uniform. Rebecca ran. Behind her, the mansion's rotting walls still pulsed with the whispers of the infected. She carried no weapon, only a syringe of experimental antiserum and the weight of 1,000 unspoken truths. Her breath fogged in the night, she did not look back. To hesitate was to become another corpse in the archives. To flee was to become a living contradiction. The T-virus had not failed, it had learned. Umbrella's labs had turned the mansion into a crucible, testing how far humanity could bend before snapping. Rebecca had seen it, the notes scrawled in a surgeon's hand, the autopsies performed on conscious subjects, the children used as vectors. Her medical training had not saved her there. It had made her an archivist of horrors. When she escaped, she did not realize she had stolen more than her life. She had stolen evidence. The first hit came 6 months later, a poisoned needle in a hospital supply cache. The second, a fire in her S.T.A.R.S. quarters. Each attempt bore the same clinical precision. No bullets, no fingerprints, only the cold calculus of men who had already decided her death was necessary. She learned to sleep with a scalpel under her pillow, learned the taste of anticoagulants to slow bleeding from wounds that would not clot. By 2003, Umbrella had gone global. Their reach stretched into governments, pharmaceutical boards, even the WHO, but Rebecca's testimony could unravel it all. A single interview, a single vial of preserved B.O.W. DNA. Yet every ally she trusted vanished, every lead dissolved into red tape, the shadows thickened. In 2014, a contract killer called her the last patient zero. In 2017, a drone struck her safe house in Prague. She began to wonder, was she running from Umbrella or running ** toward * the truth? The mansion had taught her that survival was not an end, it was a lens. Through her eyes, the world would see what they buried in Raccoon's soil. And so she walks, a ghost in scrubs, the weight of a corporation's sins in her blood. The hunt never ends, but neither does the story. Her blood hums with the G-Virus ghostly signature, a beacon in the dark. They track her through subway grime, desert dust, the static of hospital monitors. Each escape births new assassins, colder weapons, Umbrella's patience sharpened to a blade. Did they think her silence could be carved from her bones? 20 years and the virus still whispers in her veins, a siren song for monsters. She walks, they follow. The world is a web of threads, each one a noose. More in the virus still shadows must she whispers in her outpace before the veins hunt becomes the hunted. The shadows lengthen, the Spencer mansion's walls still weep blood. 7 lives extinguished in a week of rot and rage. Rebecca ran, they followed. Raccoon City Bernadette's skyline choked by the same poison that killed her brothers in arms. What survives when the world is set ablaze? A name, a wound. Umbrella's scientists did not mourn the city. They did not mourn the children twisted into monsters, the mothers who bled black in subway tunnels. They calculated, they refined. Rebecca Chambers became a variable, a loose thread in their tapestry of death. She was 17 when Bravo team died, 21 when Raccoon's ashes fell like snow, 20 years of hiding. 20 years of Umbrella's hunters circling relentless patient. They do not seek her for the virus, they seek her for the truth, for the face of every victim they cannot bury. How many doors did she barricade? How many names did she burn? The weight of Spencer, the weight of Raccoon, the weight of every life Umbrella erased to keep their empire standing. She is not a hero, she is a reckoning. The cost is not in the dead, the cost is in the living who remember, and Rebecca remembers, every scar, every scream. Every second of the hunt that never ends. The scars on her hands do not fade. The stench of antiseptic clings to her still, a ghost of the labs where she once stitched wounds that bled blue. Umbrella's scientists had hoped her survival would be an anomaly. Instead, it became a weapon. She moved through the ruins of the hive like a wraith, syringes of data stolen from the dead pressed to her chest. Her medical kit, once a tool of salvation, now carried vials of truth, evidence of experiments that twisted flesh into futility. The T-Virus was no failure. It was a god, and she had seen its prophets in the glass-walled chambers. By 2002, the whispers coalesced into a name, * Project Warden *, a coalition of S.T.A.R.S. defectors and survivors. Rebecca's voice, steady over encrypted channels, became its heartbeat. She taught them how to burn a bioweapons trail, how to recognize the fever of infection in a city's veins. Raccoon's ashes were still warm when she mapped the first strike against Umbrella's supply chains. But the corporation does not bleed, it adapts. Her escape from the hive was a prologue. The real war began in boardrooms and back alleys, in the space between a lab-coated scientist's breaths as he recalibrated his crosshairs. Umbrella's hunters were no longer men with guns. They were accountants, lawyers, men in tailored suits who smiled while arranging train derailments. Rebecca learned to trust only the cold precision of a scalpel. Did they fear her? No. They respected the *proof * she carried. A medic's hands could not be trusted to remain clean. Her reports, signed with the S.T.A.R.S. seal, were poison in the wrong hands. An Umbrella had * so many hands *. The 2002 coalition fractured. Ideals broke on the rocks of pragmatism, but Rebecca endured. She became a shadow, a name whispered in safe houses. Her resilience was not defiance, it was arithmetic. For every agent they killed, 2 more emerged from the cracks. Today, the anti-Umbrella war is a shadow war. And Rebecca Chambers is its quiet engine. She does not seek glory. She seeks the day her expertise is no longer needed. Until then, the hunt continues. Not as a relic of raccoon, as a force that will not be silenced. The cost is in the living who remember, and Rebecca remembers every scar, every scream. Every second of the hunt that never ends. She moves through shadows now, 2 decades of near misses, of aliases burned like matches. 2017, Sushestvavani Island, a trap disguised as rescue. Rebecca knew the tides of that frozen coast carried more than zombies' umbrellas' final bid to drown memory. They sent poisons, not pathogens, contract killers who mistook her scars for surrender. She survived. Again, the company's shadow grows thinner, but its memory does not. Every lab report she evades becomes a ghost in the machine. Every face she sheds leaves a relic in someone's hands. A vial of T-virus serum hidden in Minsk, a journal page buried under Warsaw rubble. Umbrella's architects are gone, yet their obsession endures. The assassins adapt, the methods evolve. But the target remains, one woman, keeper of too many secrets. Her breath a counter in the clockwork of their guilt. They call her a relic, she knows better. Relics do not bleed, do not watch, do not wait for the next shot in the dark. The hunt narrows, the world forgets, Rebecca remembers. And in that remembering, the monsters stay alive. Years passed, Rebecca Chambers became a ghost, a name whispered in labs where T-virus samples hummed like hymns. Wesker's shadow stretched longest. A father of nightmares, he carved protocols to hunt her. Spencer, the godfather of rot, ensured her face remained etched in security dossiers. Umbrella's boardroom stank of antiseptic and sin. White-coated priests called her Asset 13B, a living ledger of raccoon's sins. She learned to bleed quietly, to stitch wounds without mirrors, every town a new mask, every hospital a potential trap. They never sent armies, just cold calls at dawn. Just doctors with too many questions, just the faint click of a tracker in her last vial of blood. Rebecca's hands stayed steady, a scalpel against the world's throat. She became a myth to outlast monsters, but myths hunger. Wesker's notes grew feral, Spencer's budgets bloated with obsession. A pharmaceutical empire, yes, but also a graveyard, shelves of failed experiments. And one girl who refused to become a specimen. She walked past funeral homes, past obituaries that weren't hers. The world moved on. Raccoon's ashes fertilized boardroom flowers, Umbrella's truest crime. Making Rebecca a mirror, a reflection Wesker couldn't weaponize, Spencer couldn't bury. A quiet heartbeat in a machine-driven heart. They will not catch her. They will not kill her. But they will wait, and in that waiting, the monsters stay alive. Rebecca Chambers walks the earth as a name whispered in the halls of the dead. They call her Ghost, but she is no phantom of the mind. She is the scar that refuses to heal, the first cut in a ledger of blood. They built plagues in glass towers, but one girl became their undoing. Rebecca Chambers, not a ghost. A living record of every lie. T-virus births monsters, yet Umbrella's true horror. The families they buried to keep it secret. 20 years, dozens of hunters. One truth they cannot kill. She knows the names, the executives, the labs, the children who vanished to fuel the nightmare. Next dossier.